call this meeting on August 6th at 5:30. Rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do we have any additions, deletions, amendments to the agenda that anyone wants to add or bring up?
My only, I don't know, have we had a vote? Is there no votes yet? Probably.
Not yet.
Okay.
I wasn't sure if we can ratify electronically. I don't know if we'll get enough.
It'll just wait till the next meeting, then we find. That was seeing if I needed to add, depending on where they were with ratification. We came to terms with the certified contract, so just waiting for the process to catch up to whether we can officially approve it in the board meeting. So not quite there yet.
Okay.
So,
I move that we adopt the agenda as stated.
I'll second.
All in favor?
All right,
Aye. Great. Any community comments? Okay,
that's a heavy load, Steve. Yeah.
we have business finance report on here, but no name next to it.
Yeah, there's no business finance report at this point.
Great, this is a,
Yeah.
So we're getting home tonight.
and no administrator, yeah, to my non-family. My cat will be so happy. So I guess we're straight on to
Yep.
Superintendent reports.
Yeah, so just summer work happening. I shared, we now settled both of our contracts with both employee groups. I think the talks went well. Speaks to that, I think, good relationship and all of us wanting to do great things for kids, so that was exciting. One of the highlights that I want to point out, well, a couple of things, but one of them is we're trying a different PD model. So for those that, I mean, we're keeping our traditional model, but we're adding a wrinkle to it for our staff, for them to earn additional credits and move along the pay scale. So if you remember a couple of years ago, Joe and I shared that we went through the Stanford Design School process. And so we, and mostly Joe, give Joe a lot of credit for working on this, took that process and converted it into a PD model for staff. And so instead of teachers going to a graduate course or entering into a master's class, even after they have a master's, to keep working to the right of the pay scale, they can think about a problem of practice in the district, propose it to HR, and we can follow that in Stanford. Well, it's a kind of a committee, but yeah, and we can follow that Stanford design process through realizing and problem solving business problems in practice and work it through and give them credit for doing that. And so it's a way for staff at no cost other than time. Time is a big cost, but their time that they would spend, but not paying the university, and also having it being a real school-centric problem. Not that most of the PD and master's classes don't connect to your, but this one would be specific. There are some problems of practice, like place-based learning or engaging volunteers, or right, how do we attack those things? So we're really excited about that. It's a 2-year model that no connections, no strings attached after that. We'll evaluate it, but for 2 years, we're gonna jump in and try it and see what we can do with it and what kind of ideas come forward. So we're excited about that. I think both sides were equally excited about that opportunity and a way to be creative moving forward together. So we're excited about that. Joe, is there anything else to add for the contract stuff? I mean, that was probably one of the bigger highlights.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. It's pretty involved, so I think that's good for them.
Good service level.
At some point, because it's well, Chris can talk about the conference and it was well received even at the administrative conference.
So also just to get caught up on stuff happening over the summer. So and we've talked about these things, but portals were getting moved to the high school, so that's happening now. We replaced boilers at the middle school. We got the our irrigation pumps updated about 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago. A double pump redundancy system now that has a much better capacity, was part of the plan under the bond anyway, with adding the new field space, so it was just finding the right time to get it put in. So that work has been done, working on the chiller at the high school as well. So a lot of work. We still anticipate getting the walkway along the back of the stadium, behind the stadium, around that parking lot, still on track to come in. Our volunteers have done some great work on the greenhouse, so we've got an electrical package going into that as well for the elementary school greenhouse. The contractors came back and overseeded
I was gonna ask.
elementary field. The grass is growing, so we're well ahead of where we were last year with the field at this time. So it's also having a more aggressive watering schedule. If the grass is the existing grass, what little there was of it is growing. So we're optimistic. The reality is, with a new plant, it's going to be another year or two of overseeding every spring and working it. We believe it will. I do not believe we will have running club on it this year. We'll do that out on the stadium, on the outer lanes of the track, to prevent the kind of wear we put on it this last year, which basically wore it down to the dirt. So we'll have to be mindful. I think this year it'll be, again, probably off limits for a bit of the start of the school, and then we'll open it up once we see that the grass has grown well enough and starting to be more established. So that's going as good as can be. I don't know if we remember last year, we were having some problems with staff keeping the gates locked on the back walkway to go in for the middle school. So we actually just put a solid fence in so we can keep that walkway open and not worry about kid security out on the playground of the elementary school. So that back paved walkway between the elementary field and the tennis courts, now those gates will be open and there's solid fences on
Both sides.
Yeah, so we invested in that just because we felt people could manage keeping the gate shut, but it was always somebody forgot, somebody didn't even know who is out there, and inevitably once a week we find a gate open and that just wasn't working.
Will that change the flow for kids dropping off, for parents dropping off kids?
It shouldn't.
Okay, because prior to the gates being closed over winter, they were being dropped off on the south side of the building along with the buses are.
Yeah.
And prior to that point, they were coming in on the north side along where the rest of the family drop off was.
Yeah, I think it'll go, I think those will go back to being open. Well, and I believe that they were open in the morning so people could go, well, they were at times, I'll just put it that way, because I was over there and that's the problem. So now they will be open, so there will be some modification. Some people were parking in the middle school parking lot and walking through to the elementary, right? So that will be a permanently open byway for that process now. So we think it'll improve the process.
Should help.
And should improve safety. We are putting, well, the intent was, I have to go and double check that they are putting them in. I saw the pictures of the fence, but I couldn't see on the line whether the gate was in, but we're supposed to have man gates in from the back of the field across into the stadium. So they didn't have to come out in the parking lot to get into the stadium if they wanted to go out there.
Great.
Still would need a supervisor, an adult to open the gates because they'll be locked, but a better traffic pattern and for safety for kids. So and more convenience hopefully for families as well. So that work is getting done. We still have some punch list stuff in the elementary school that's getting worked on. We had the gym floor resurfaced. We still have some windows to replace. Wasn't on the bond as far as the construction, but we put some bird spiking up on the fire systems because that was a mess all year long with birds resting and leaving their fun colored cards all over. So doing some work to help, just maintain the buildings and keep them up to par. And so that's the building stuff, still ongoing stuff that we're looking at. The one bond went out and our maintenance budget with that had expired. So there's still things that we have to consider looking around the district, looking ahead to 2030, there will be plenty of deferred maintenance, like some of the gaps starting to reappear in our blacktop. It was 2015 that we cut things out where we had large gaps and were causing access problems. And we did some top coating along that path, but again, asphalt in Central Oregon, right? It expands and contracts, and pretty soon you have those gaps again. So there'll continue to be projects we'll need to look at and make a plan for as we project ahead to, we have two things, 2028 local option and 2030 maintenance bond will be the next two things as they keep rolling through. We on the agenda down, you'll see a staff resignation. So we had a late promotion of a spouse that required a family move. So we were a little concerned this time of year. What does that look like? We posted a job for 2 weeks. We had 35 applicants. They screened them this week, are interviewing 5 on Friday. So pretty massive response in a short period of time of really solid candidates to replace that first grade teacher. So really excited about that. And so it's been something, there's always something over the summer that keeps the team. So our new elementary principal, Megan, who's been in and transitioning, is, been working and meeting with teams, her first grade team, to put a plan in place. And like I said, they're interviewing candidates on Friday. Hopefully, most places they're back in by next week. So reference calls, and then hopefully we'll have a teacher with an accepted position before we get close to in-service week. So we're excited about that. Other than that, I think we're fairly fully staffed right now across the board. I think we do have a couple of classified jobs that we typically don't hire until August anyway, because there's a wide variation of what happens for people over the summer. And so we still have a few positions there to fill, but feeling very good about staffing approaching the start of school. And then Joe alluded to it. So Joe volunteered us. So we've been working on things like, how do we get more creative and professional development? How do we expand on internships? How do we expand on our place-based learning? And so Joe, and to that, Joe and I visited the National Association of Independent Schools Conference. Joe, I, and Steve Stanton went up to visit Gibson Eck, which is a big picture learning school up in Issaquah, Washington. Joe and Steve went to the
ASU GSB
conference
San Diego.
in San Diego. And so really looking at how are we, I don't want to use the term innovation. How are we
Evolving.
how are we evolving and hitting that intersection of knowledge acquisition and student agency, right? What are we doing there? So Joe and I, Joe volunteered to speak at this most recent conference put on by COSA. And I said, well, probably I should go and be with you, Joe. And so we co-presented over there, pretty well received by folks. But we talked about the history of public ed to some degree, a small portion, then gave some examples, one of Gibson Eck, one of two-hour learning, and then another one is High Tech High, which the movie is most likely to see if you've not seen that. So kind of some quote unquote innovative curriculum ideas. What are they doing? And then we talked about what we're doing here in Sisters. Used examples of historically IEE, Luthier program, things that are place-based, great partnerships with our community, to looking at our internship program and our new professional development, because it's hard to say students go and do creative things, but our teachers also have an opportunity now to model that as well, right? So now what I'm going to share with you guys today is part of this conference was how are you using technology, how are you using AI? So, for some of us, this is a newer venture. So there's a product out there called Notebook LM. And the very cool thing about this is you can put your resources in the Notebook LM and it'll give you a summary of all of your resources, right? And it'll specifically answer Even though it's more geared for teachers, but it's something I think we need to hit collectively. It'll be a topic as part of our discussion, in our welcome back. I think that's probably, there's a lot of good summer work. So, questions?
The grant,
Yeah,
from whom, how much?
Yeah, it's from ODE, it's a community youth grant, there's a variety of them. Free that we could have chose from, the one that fit us best was the community youth. And we can apply full up to 200,000. We're requesting about 190. And then if we get this, you can request for up to multiple grants up to 600,000. And so that's why we're kind of pretty nervous right now, because we really want this, because if we get this, then we can really build on.
these
build on-
systems.
Yeah, so
And is this built on providing opportunities for teachers? Or is it built on providing the model to them?
so what the purpose of the grant is to get kids re-engaged.
Okay,
And so they might think re-engagement means one thing, but I've produced, we have all this statistics saying students are just not engaged in public school in general. 70% of our students are not engaged. A Gallup poll, there's recent Gallup polls from 23, 24, and 25 that even indicates 50% of our students are leaving without feeling any sense of purpose or meaning. Think about that. That makes me emotional just thinking of
yeah.
50% of our students leaving without feeling a sense of purpose.
Yeah, and that's a national trend. So I will say our youth truth data isn't as disparaging as that. However, there is a gap between what we think is engaging and what kids think is engaging.
Yeah, and so part of our design thinking class was, I was looking for innovative models, and I did a research project around it, and I realized that kids' mindsets are traditional in traditional schools. So anyway, the back to your point is what was the grant for? It was to get kids re-engaged and help them graduate. And so we fostered it around that, and to get them re-engaged from our research that we've been doing is this interest-based learning, giving students purpose. And so we're facilitating them through internships right now, or projects. It could be project-based. They could see a problem in the community and go after it. And then we're following that up with an English teacher to maneuver that interest base to allow them to do their critical writing through to get an English credit. So think about that. That's essentially 2 credits that they could use the second half of the day to do their internships.
And to be clear, that process we talked about on the drive home from Gibson Eck 8 months ago. And the grant was an opportunity. We were already talking to staff about putting this in place. How can we do it? The grant is an opportunity to accelerate what we already had kind of envisioned because of the work that we were doing.
We have been looking and reading for years.
Yeah.
And this is probably the first year I feel like we're taking action step. We're actually taking multiple ones. That's what's so fun. And I do feel like our professional development thing that we created together, there was some excitement. It was really fun meeting with these guys but it was also fun to see it received at COSA. I mentioned something at one of the conferences, and all of a sudden they were wondering who I was. Where are you? What do you do? And so you kind of know that you kind of touched on something that seems interesting. So the other thing that we think we're a little bit we're on to something is because we hear about project-based, about internships, and that folks are doing it. Guy from Colorado came to speak. He was a keynote, and he asked about there's 400 to 500 Oregon administrators there. Who has a robust internship program? There's 3 people that raised their hand. I'm not kidding. And he said, "Oh, I guess Oregon's not in internships." The United States it has fallen behind the rest of the world in internships. The government puts a ton of cash behind internships in other countries, but not ours. And yet it's one of the waves that are happening more and more to support the students.
That would date us by going back and talking about sim and cam, and that cam strands used to be, which is certificate of advanced mastery, used to be internships, and that used to be part of that process. So that's, there's a cycle that happens
So that's a great point there that he makes, because I've been here, this will be my 4th attempt to do an internship program. And so all of this, that's why we want to use the word education is evolving, because all of this, what's happening is that it's all learnings built on each other, coming together with new technologies and new learnings, and they're coming together, they're merging. And so when we look at that's what the conference we went to was basically AI driven, because we're trying to gather our heads around, that's gonna change the way we teach.
well, and the way we invest. I mean, our talking budgetarily, our technology budget has gotten bigger each year because more resources are online and not in paper pencil. And even that, actually, if you were watching 2020 last week, right, there was a thing on ChatGPT. There's now a product that is for teachers, $15 per student per license, but it'll scan any student work turned in to see if it's AI generated. And it doesn't do it by how it's written. It does it by the electronic footprint and where it's cut and pasted from. And it's an interesting technology that is really effective in catching, well, if you want to call it cheating. You know, my son was in a community college class. They said, hey, you're going to use ChatGPT, but that's a draft. What you turn in should look vastly different than what that is. And so they were almost encouraging the use of AI assisted writing. So it's an interesting dynamic of where we are in public education. Foundationally still, teaching kids to read and write, critical thinking, right? Our belong, prepare, and inspire still resonates overwhelmingly in the process. So we're taking those steps forward to the next things to keep that transition of engagement involved. So heavy, good meeting.
How are you identifying the kids that are gonna be part of it?
We gotta, so if you know anybody, send them our way. It's open to everybody. Last year we put out five ideas of our, we're working with internships within ours. We're just trying to recruit right now. And if we get this grant, we're really gonna have to, because we're gonna have to produce data. We're asking for there was one that you could ask for, I think like 120, and you didn't have to produce any data the first year, but we felt like, well, we kind of have things in place that we can produce data. So any high school student.
And we have we have a good group of kids. When we were on the drive back, we're like, okay, we do Aspire. Every junior and senior gets in a cohort for forward planning after high school. We have a lot of our juniors that want to be in IEE, so they apply. But then, okay, the kids that don't get an IEE, what do they do? Right? How do we offer some experiential learning, some program that is a little more varied for them? And so we kind of took the tenets of Gibson Eck and thought that's the jump off. There were some folks at Gibson Eck, it's a 9 through 12, who thought, I guess their comment was more maybe that the freshman year wasn't as productive. And maybe it was more geared towards older students as far as the internship model. So it made us think again, if we're going to start slow and make sure we can do something that will gain traction, not lose traction, you want that to be successful. So we focused at some of the structures we already had in place with Aspire, with place-based learning, opportunities for kids, build small partnerships, look for those opportunities, and keep moving.
Yeah, I think Kurt's a good quarterback. He looks at the defense, see what plays he can run, and then he takes it. So,
Right.
yeah.
And then I guess on the flip side of that question, not just the kids, so how are we recruiting for community partners for these internships?
Well, that's honestly, that's where Amy is coming in, and she's gonna be a major part of this, and then she's gonna be, we're looking to adjust her job, and that's a little bit of a gift that she comes with, and we already had a meeting with 5, we only needed 2. MOAs, so we, memorandums of agreement, and we have 5. We can only submit a total of 4, so we have a good start, and we already have a plan of recruiting, so right, if we get this grant, or, we have some strategic plans of putting it out there. Again, though, if you have somebody, send them our way, because that's one thing that we've realized is that we used to set up internships and say, here's your student, good luck. And there wasn't, and so we realized from our learnings that advisor has to be out working with we have to have a community partner. So anyway, that I digress a little bit.
Part of the strength of that is, we've already, for the last 2 years, been working with C4C.
Mhm.
Already been working with ANCO, already been working with the Forest Service, already been working with the fire department, right? So, and we had the city involved as well. Those were the folks that are at the table, like, we're in, this is good stuff. So, I mean, it is about ongoing community relations, Rotarians, Kiwanis. I mean, it's that process that keeps it going.
Additionally, we have some that are already built into our system.
Right, yeah.
And so that's what we're working with as well. The ones that we were recruiting for last year were all in-house. And can you mention them?
Yeah, there were, for us, for the district, we started recruiting for a graphic designer, a photographer, videographer, journalist, and, don't recall the last one, but there were 5 of them that we sent out for. And then on top of that, then we went to we started doing civic leadership. And so that's where we're starting to partner with SPRT, the city, yeah, and trying to set up like job shadowing at first, so that students would get a feel for different opportunities. And then if they find one that matches and they really want to go for it, then an internship like that. So that's already going to start.
Roundhouse is ready to go.
Yeah. In the community, I'm in 4-H and FFA is a big, and like those type of things. Have you done any recruitment with like ag or construction or any of those things?
Because, no, we have what we have right now, and if we get this grant, then it's all in.
Well,
We-
I will tell you that I've actually had the conversation with Pam and Pam Mitchell and Matt Cyrus about, we can't offer an ag program per se, but here's what we can do. We're starting an internship program that should give those kids these opportunities, and that didn't resonate with them.
Well, but they're not the only one.
Yeah,
right, in that community.
So our hope was to get it more established so that we can have some success to start and keep promoting.
If they keep doing that, that's what we say, because people want us to do a CTE program focused on auto.
Right.
Well, we don't have the funds for that.
Right.
We might have, I don't know if we even have students, so we're connecting, and we have, that's what we've done at Spotty, that's what we've learned so much. We had one student work full-time because he wasn't coming to school. This was back in Neil Fendel's time, and he connected with Sisters Rental. And they would set up a place for him to study or do a class, online class in theirs. And so they developed that mentorship. And so that was we were learning that as we go, just for that one. So we know that they're out there. That's what's so cool. We gotta capitalize on, while we might be little, everybody loves each other, wants to try and help, especially the schools.
So we're gonna jump in. Anyway, so that's that, in a nutshell is.
Black Butte will be a great one. Do we know anyone out there?
No.
We'll make it happen.
Good questions, and yes, we still need to keep that working. Again, our goal, our thought was to start small, build
Oh, that's
success. And not, the worst thing to do is get overwhelmed and have things fall through and then people think you're failing, right? Even though you may not be, that'll be their experience, so, but again, yeah, the 4-H ag is a huge one, connecting with some farmers. And again, not just hands, right? Learning about the business side, the process, the cycles, the whole thing.
And ultimately, it's not just internships, it could be a project. We have a variety of different ideas. It just seemed like it was a natural step for us to try just internships first.
And again, Gibson Act was interesting. Those 50 kids, they come up with their own project. And they're responsible for making the contact in the community. And or it doesn't have to be that. One kid tried to start her own 501(c)(3). She started her own fundraiser, right, her own awareness campaign, around, I can't remember what the illness she had, sickle cell, something. But it was interesting. But the work connected to standards, connected to competencies, you couldn't, they were doing the work.
Yeah, think about that during, when their freshman year, they called 101s. They were learning how to interview, they were learning how to write their resumes, they were learning how to connect, they were learning how to interview. They're learning these life skills at their freshman year, and then they're gonna go out and practice them by recruiting and trying to connect with a company of some sort. And so those are life skills that ultimately that we think those are the competencies they're gonna need to have before they leave.
And then at the end, the idea is that they do a presentation and they present to a board, they present to a panel. It's a huge skill.
So ChatGPT doesn't matter. You can do all the cheating you want, but you present, it's not gonna speak for you.
See, never a quick meeting, I'm just saying.
Oh, you're here. I knew what was happening.
Yeah.
How about teachers? Would it create more work for teachers because they're giving specific students more?
I don't think it's more work, I think it's different work. So we have been an avid school, so I would compare what they would be doing to what staff gets taught in the avid tutorial, which is finding a kid's point of confusion and asking them questions about how to get around that point of confusion rather than giving them the answer. Right, when you're really skilled at asking questions in a way of helping guide someone in mentorship and shadowing, etc. That's the way you help, and you still build the agency. It's still on them to do the work, right? So that's the way I see it. I don't see it as being new and more, just different.
I've seen some cool models, and
Yeah.
it ultimately should be easier for different.
I would say,
Rewarding for teachers because they're focused more on a mentorship advisor coach's role. They're not necessarily, they don't have to be the sage on the stage anymore, nor should they be.
I would say, yes, if you felt that every teacher had to be an expert in every content that a kid was doing an internship, that's not tenable, right? That you can't do, that, right? But they don't have to be. I mean, and honestly, even with some of the technologies available, they could, there's gonna be AI tools that could help in the process for them also. So there's a lot of opportunity as we keep going to increase our engagement. I think both for staff and for kids, because when our staff are jazzed, when kids are excited about stuff. Right, and that's when it really gets to be authentic learning.
Right.
So.
Just need them to buy in.
Yeah. Yep.
So, and that's what we've discovered is that even at we haven't seen a public school system, a district evolve. They've created a school, a charter school, but we haven't found an entire district. I've read some maybe like around Detroit or something like that, but there's still micro type of situations.
And it's because of capacity and
yeah,
systems.
because what you're saying is it's so hard to
Yeah.
change a model. And
Right.
so they have to, that's why one thing that I think that this is the powerful approach is one teacher at a time.
Well, the reality is when we visited Gibson Eck, 10,000 students in Issaquah, 50 a year apply, right, each class. So the school was 250 per grade. And they applied because they wanted it, right? And they got a waiver for seat time because they were out doing interns, they were out of the classroom up more than the state would allow for a traditional school. And they got a waiver for credits because they were competency based. Right, so they had 2 waivers from the state for 200 kids out of actually it might have been more like a 12,000 student feeder system. Just at the high school level, right? They had 4 traditional high schools around the region. So again, a lot of people are walking and said, well, we can't do it because look at all the stuff they do that's outside of the norm, right? We think we can get there.
I've got those waivers that we.
Yeah.
Nice.
So anyway, we're excited about the potential. It'll be baby steps, maybe adolescent steps, but we're gonna start working the process. So. And I think our presentation was fairly well received. People enjoyed it. I mean, we are still believers in public ed. One of the things the league was touting 2 years of academic gain in 1 year of school with them. Well, if you read John Hattie and Marzano, if you use highly effective pedagogy, you can get more than 2 years of growth in a kid in a year. So that can happen. It's about relationships, pedagogy, engagement, right? So we still believe in our system. We just want to tweak it to support the changes.
Anyone else have questions? That generated voices was mildly disturbing. With
Like
the
hearing
ahs
money.
and the oh, and
Yeah.
the I was like, wow, that's really scary.
Yeah, it's a whole new level.
Yeah.
All right, I think that's enough.
Nothing on it. I only have one question
What?
left about, not about this, but
Oh.
about this building and
Oh.
the other building.
No new updates other than we're in process. We've got a surveyor. I think I talked to most folks about this. The county plot shows that this was split up into like 12 lots already. So the question is, we may not have to do, we don't have to divide it. What we just may have to do is just rezone
Right.
the open space. We'll see. We're still engaged with, Roundhouse is kind of backed off, but we're engaged with the city too, the two that had some interest about this building. And so we're giving city council some tours next week. You know, I think if you are staying on top of the UGB and what the next 10 to 20 years for Sisters is gonna look like and forward thinking, if they're adding 1,700 units in the UGB of growth, this as a extension space for the city may make sense down the road, thinking long-term. For us, the idea of capturing 15 acres in the UGB for future schools is a good idea. So, yeah, so I think we're still, I thought sometimes our things were slow moving. County and city processes are much, sorry, but much slower. So and it's summer and people are off and doing the things that they should be doing with their families, so it's just slowed down by that as well. So we've, again, still waiting on our architect, and we have an agreement with a surveyor and an engineering firm, so we're working forward.
Do we have any issue with moving the offices over
It's gonna be
the
tight.
Oakfield building
It-
and financial restraint because
Maybe.
we didn't sell this right away?
Maybe, we'll see. It depends on what happens. If we don't sell, that'll be a discussion with the board when we get closer to that time, because we are positioned pretty well in our contingency. If we felt we needed to dip into that to do some work to get the construction done and replace it when an asset is liquidated. Or by the time that we get the design certified and approved through the county, that we actually may have sold something or had earnest money down that we can tap into. So I think when we start to bump up against those pressure points, I'll just keep the board informed and, you know, it'll be up to the board.
Stuff,
Yeah,
if we
yeah,
have to, but
yeah.
just curious.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all I have. Any other questions for Kurt on his
summer,
report,
summer of fun.
if that's really your voice?
Yeah, that's not it.
S- All right, so moving on to board business, which is also you really, because, oh no, we need to appoint somebody for the calendar committee.
I apologize, it's not on the organizational meeting, that one's left off.
Yes.
So-
So the
I,
question is who,
yeah, I did it last time, which I thought was pretty cool, that anyone who has interest in joining the calendar committee, it's pretty informative too, so.
And what's the commitment?
So they meet a couple, 4 or 5 times.
Well, last year was easy.
Yeah, last year was easy. So obviously they go through the calendar and they base it on breaks and mostly the high school and testing and trimester setup to try and make it so it works so that you don't start a trimester and then go to Christmas 3 days later. And so on and so forth, or what have you. Spring break's always under discussion because it's a 2-week spring break, so we're usually about 50-50 always on that topic. So anyway.
Well, and it used to be with that. Couple things have happened when a decade ago, it was the 2-week spring break, we started earlier. We started the week before the holiday. And then we got up at the same time as everybody else. Then we shifted and went after the holiday, eliminated the 2 weeks for a couple years. And I'm not sure that was, well, again, the 50-50 is well received. We actually heard from staff that the 2-week was more of a retention tool, that if the calendar was the same as everybody else, maybe when our staff led student groups on trips, they did stuff of their own during that time. And so we, upon hearing that feedback, decided to go back, which then extended so we were still starting the same time as everybody else, but then it pushed us out a week later, which has been, I don't know how well that's been received. You know, there are pressure points along the way, whether it's you get an extra week of kids in school before summer stuff happens, or being on the same schedule. We always, Park and Rec does a good job of offering some opportunities, but we also get folks that like, what am I supposed to do with my kids for an extra week in spring break? You know, spring sports are going for the high school, so they're pretty much, you know, there are other things happening, but that it usually is more of an elementary school issue and what we're doing there. So it's gone back and forth in the 10 years that I've been here.
So, yeah, I'm sorry, so are you implying that this is going to be a harder year to do the calendar committee?
I don't know, for sure,
It depends on where the holiday.
yeah, the holiday,
Right.
but I have.
Well, the way you said it, it sounded like you were all over it and you're
You said
like,
it was-
yeah, last year was easy.
Yeah, because, I can't, when does, if, the first thing is, when does, Christmas fall? So if it's falling on a Monday or a Friday or something like that, it will be, because we're getting close to, we've had about 3 years that can roll, and then once the holidays start messing around, then it gets something else. And then Labor Day falls into it, we're gonna have that discussion about Labor Day at some point in time, starting before Labor Day for one of the days, which we started last year. So I just don't, well, that's why I say I don't know, because I know it's coming up that the holidays aren't gonna be so clean.
Inevitably,
Gonna get worse.
and inevitably, like what happened this year, we get every teachers association, the classified, us, a board member, and we go through it, and then we go, oh, what, wait a minute, we missed this date, and then we have to bring, because anything with the calendar, the board has to approve.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought about the folk festival Sunday. So
Exactly,
We try to
so,
be creative and switch our, all state in-service day and move it to September. And then we moved to September, we forgot, well, that's big partner day. From my.
speaking of partnerships, yeah.
Yeah. So we moved it because we are good partners. I think that keeping the group, because you don't have to go through foundational knowledge, has been a huge help. So nothing against anyone, but if you could be part of it again, that would certainly help.
Yeah, I'm happy to do it again if nobody wants it.
And you can have at least, you
You can have more than one person for
Just not
sure.
three.
Yeah, we just can't have a quorum, so.
Yeah, I think one of the challenges with this is they meet at 3:30, 4 o'clock
Yeah,
midweek.
after.
And if you've got a real job, or a job, I
Yeah.
guess,
Yeah, real job.
it's a challenge.
Mine's fake, so I'm happy to do it.
What's a job?
Yeah, exactly. It's make believe.
Yeah, that's a good point, and I don't see an alternative.
Well, I mean, we can always zoom somebody in,
Okay.
and David Thorset also barely ever attended, and you informed him of everything that was going on.
I
So
think the other opportunity could be rather than right
You
after,
do it.
sometimes it works to do early meetings too for people you can meet and do it before the start of the day. And that tends to work for folks. So I think there's some creativity, if there's someone who has an interest to do it, that it could work.
does anyone else, would
I am interested.
you are interested? Yeah, so
There you go.
maybe we'll both do it then.
Okay.
So what do we need to do
And
here?
split the difference.
There's no action needed, we just assign.
No, they're working committees, so it's really not. I mean,
Right.
We don't need to take action on it, it's just needed to be a discussion.
Okay.
So. Good.
Great, that was, okay,
The consent agenda.
yes, exactly, or maybe, consent agenda. I need my glasses, because I'm all of a sudden blind, that's great. Organizational board minutes. Does anyone see any issues in them?
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
All in favor?
Hi.
And then we don't have any action. Do we need to, we're accepting this resignation.
Yeah.
And we adopted the consent agenda, so we're up to announcements, August 20th. Is the OSBA board training.
Reminders.
Yes.
Do your reminders and a reminder that, although I anticipate being back, I'm flying back from dropping my daughter off at school, so I may, depending on how the flight goes, I may or may not be there. My intention is that it gets in time for me to be there, but it's gonna be tight if there's a hiccup along the way. I may not be there.
And this meeting is at 5.
Yes.
We've moved
that one
our
is
board
fine.
meetings to-
That one was already fixed.
Okay.
Wait a minute.
And that's with the OSBA presenter who is going to really walk through board behavior.
Yeah, so a very important one, I think. September 3rd is our regular board meeting at 5:30. And also on September 3rd, we have a board work session at Giver Plus 6:30. Any last comments before we depart?
Do work session for this.
We don't get to the board.
Yes, depart from this meeting.
Yeah, we adjourn this one.
Yes, all right, so. This board meeting at 7:30 or 6:31, 6:30, we'll make it an even hour. Great,
Do we want a 5-minute break and then we'll
Jump
jump
in.
into the work session?
yes.
Okay.
This one of you, if that's possible. It's been a while.
Okay.
For you
Yeah,
guys.
you
and
got
then-
an official one, me, so.
And I don't have any from you two.
Oh.
So if I could get headshots of you tonight, that would be great.
From Joel.
Unless you don't feel comfortable tonight.
Where you?
Any enough of blue background out there?
Yeah, we're gonna do the.
Just like all the volunteers.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
Probably, I don't see you before, I'll see you for 1 o'clock, right?
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have G?
Yes.
That's the
Okay.
Thursday, that week.
Yeah.
Thursday.
Just-
See you then?
You're done.
Those of us that love it, how we do that.
That's just good to know.
But actually, we can deliver this political message to the public.
Yeah. Jeff, can I get your headshot again?
Sure.
It's been a while.
Theoretically, I'm guessing there was an asterisk. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Did you get your headshot over?
All right.
Okay, yeah. Thank you. Thanks to you. Thank you very much.
Oh, Steve, I have a.
that I use regularly. Right? And I think it's you every time I drink my coffee.
Wednesday morning is my deep dive into the nugget. And make sure there's nothing.
Yeah, you have to. Stay in it for your name, right? And I go, "Oh, good, I made it without.
Swisher.
Very, yes,
Been
yes,
around here for many years.
yes, I know.
For a while and
Yes.
I've writing there, so. Just want to say welcome.
Well, thank you for all that you did, all my kids going through under you.
Yeah.
So, yes.
Lisa,
Yes.
signature, please.
Is this, I have.
This is the meeting minutes.
Okay.
Oh.
Thank you very much.
Cycle that didn't work.
Yeah.
You know, I'm doing that as a director of apprenticeship and training. I get for the things. But,
I think it's.
And then it's the thing that I have for you is, did you get my email, my response?
I replied,
Is-
you want.
Oh, I didn't see it.
I replied here.
Oh, okay.
Literally, like,
Well enough.
oh, I wonder if you respond.
Is it okay? Can we send it out again? Okay,
Yes.
Great, I'll get it out tomorrow.
Unstructured.
Did you change it?
Basically, all I did is remove the
Yeah.
teachers, we kept staff, and then we removed your name.
Perfect.
Okay.
That's great.
Okay.
I wouldn't be in charge of any of them. anyway.
What?
I wouldn't be
Yeah.
directly in charge of any of them.
software.
anyway.
Yeah, we just thought that was
Okay.
best
Yeah,
that
I
we didn't
agree.
have that
I
association,
agree.
so.
Totally agree. But I thought it's a good
It's
opportunity
not
because
for a
Love
degree
to.
of planning
like
other
any
than
teachers that, or
do
any
we want to do
staff
kids.
that has
The
kids,
timing's not-
then they get to use the
Yes,
tools,
absolutely.
and all the golf, whatever. That'd be awesome. And maybe I'll have Joe contact me, but curious if how Blackbeard could help this internship.
We're definitely reaching out.
Yeah, now the food and beverage